but it doesn't start and stop on Sunday afternoons. We are available 24/7 with just our news ticker. That alone should bring you to the site free. Just good. It's right there. A news ticker that you'll never get through the bought off lamestream fake media. But we also do another 4 to 5 video format shows every week and content that I cannot discuss on this radio show because of the choke points in the FCC that was shut down Wham, and content that I cannot discuss on any social media platform. A good example of that is this past Wednesday on the WTF show for subscribers. I gave insight based on my military intelligence and diplomatic contacts that you will never get from anyone else. And it lends a completely different light on what's happening in the Middle East and what's going to happen in the Middle East. It is information. If I spoke about it on the radio, the FCC was shut wham down by the time I got off air. Fact. It is available at davejanda.com. It's June 18th, WTF show. As we've always said, a concern of ours has been that the syndicate, the banking syndicate, is in need of an event to distract the public from what's really going on. And what's really going on is the financial takedown of the world economy. And they need an event for people to point at rather than pointing at the people who are actually perpetrating the financial takedown, that being the criminal banking syndicate. My concern is that we got the event last night. And my concern is that a financial takedown is now imminent. But maybe my concerns are completely unjustified. So I can't think of a better person to have with us of someone who is a financial analyst extraordinaire. Bill Holter. After a lengthy career in financial services, Bill retired in 2006 and moved his family out of the United States. Good timing based on what happened in 2007 and 8. He then returned in 2011 and currently makes his home in the great state of Texas. He joined Miles Franklin as an associate writer in 2012 and through 2015. Bill is a precious metals broker with Miles Franklin. His partner, who recently passed away, Jim Sinclair, was known as Mr. Gold. Well, Bill Holter, because of his expertise in the precious metals arena, has now taken on that mantra as Mr. Gold. He's also Mr. Financial Analyst and a forensic analyst at that. Extraordinaire. You can find Bill at billholter, HOLTER.com. It's my privilege and honor to welcome back our friend, Bill Holter. Bill, welcome back.
Thank you for having me, Dave.
All right, Bill. So am I off on this? Is this the potential event that these globalist thugs have been looking for, waiting for, helping plan and operate because the financial system is beyond teetering?
Well, it sure looks like that. I've spoken about it for quite a few years now, is that they would need some type of event to kick the table over so that the fingers don't get pointed at those pushing and pulling the levers. And I think that's exactly what's happened. I mean, now we've got something to point at.
Or yeah, we sure do. So Bill, one of your attributes is your ability to read the tea leaves about where things are going. Okay, so where do you see this going at this point? Because there are people out there on Fox News, right? By the way, the Murdochs who own Fox News sit on the Council on Foreign Relations, a globalist think and implementation tank. They're out there pushing this, oh, it's so successful. This is one and done, and we can just move on with our lives, and everything's fine. It's lollipops and rainbows, and I don't buy it, Bill.
No, the question now is, what is the reaction of Russia and what is the reaction of China? And what is the reaction of the rest of the world?
Mm-hmm. All right. So what do you think they are? What are the reactions?
I think you're going to see Russia and China stand with Iran. It was just last week that the railway was completed and I guess it's operational now,
Yeah.
Silk Road.
Hmm.
So I mean, obviously, it has to irritate China to no end. Then you've got to think about what's going to happen, what will happen tomorrow, or actually tonight, with the price of oil, and
Mm.
what happens if Iran mines the Strait of Hormuz? That's 20% of the world's global oil supply.
Well, in fact, the Iran parliament has already voted to close the Strait of Hormuz. And in fact, I was looking at some tanker data before you came on, and tankers are spinning around. And all their
Right.
navigational systems are whacked out. So
Right,
they're
it's
being
being
jammed.
jammed. Yeah, they're
Yeah,
being jammed.
they're being jammed.
Yep.
So already, without them sinking, so they're going to sink a ship in the strait. They don't have to do that. They just knock out everybody's GPS systems, right? And they get in touch with the insurance companies of these tankers and say, "Hey, by the way, we're going to let Chinese ships go through, but anybody heading west, oh no, they're not going through." What happens to those insurance rates? And what happens to those companies that are going to transport? They're going to be like, "I ain't going there," right?
You're spot on.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a choke point. There's no question about it. It's a choke point, and you got to understand the world runs on two things: credit and oil. Um, Physically on oil, financially on credit. And you put a choke point on either of those with the system as levered as it is right now, and you'll see dominoes start to fall.
And we already had the debt-based system. I mean, the 10-year, the 30-year, the bond market with the tariff palooza thing, the bond market almost imploded. Here we go again, Bill, right?
Well, yeah, and you've already got the Japanese bond market is imploding, and you could make that case a broad case that the U.S. bond market is imploding, that the Fed has lost control because what's happened? The Fed has cut interest rates 1 full percentage point, but yet market rates on the 5, 10, and 30-year Treasury have all gone up 1 full percentage point. So, I mean, that shows loss of control right there of the yield curve.
So Dan Oliver recently wrote this of financial analyst. I want your take on this. And I want you to assume that what occurred yesterday could be potentially considered a misplaced step. Okay? Here's what Oliver said before this all occurred. So this is about the financial system coming down, okay? And that there were people, Trump, maybe some of the other folks around him, trying to, if you will, make it a more of a controlled demolition as opposed to a panic situation. Here's what Oliver said. One misplaced step could turn a controlled demolition into a panic unwind of the entire global credit bubble. A central bank's bailout would have to be on a scale larger than even COVID, and central bank balance sheets are so weak, there's no guarantee that the next intervention will be successful, in which case, bonds, stocks, and currencies all collapse in tandem, as occurred over the years in many an emerging market. Your take?
I think it's absolutely correct. I mean, that is the danger. And it's the danger because everything is priced using derivatives, and understand that derivatives, you're putting up 1 penny to control a dollar. So you're not putting up any capital. That's on the financial side, and then on the side that's holding the system up, the debt side. I mean, it's a disaster.
And in times of crisis, chaos, financial instability, the entities that maintain their store of value and actually enhance their store of value historically has been gold and silver. Is that a correct assessment?
Yeah, and if you want to go back a little bit, historically, whenever bad times are coming, the best move is to move to cash
Mm-hmm.
so that your chips are off the table. The problem today is cash is dead. When I say cash, I'm talking about money markets, short-term treasuries, short-term sovereign bonds.
Mm-hmm.
They're all dead. All of that can and will default, whereas gold and silver, as the original basis of cash, everything's a derivative now of gold and silver. The currencies are derivatives of gold and silver with literally no attachment. Gold and silver cannot bankrupt. They cannot default. And that's where you want to be sitting. You want to be in something that cannot default if the world is defaulting.
And many people have said, Bill, over the past several weeks, well, gold reached its height at 3,500, it's 3,300, 3,400, and well, it saw its high. And silver, was at 35 a couple times. Well, it went up to 37, but now it's back down, and it's so. Bill, I believe those prices came down a little bit, still near their highs, because the boys were printing up a bunch of fake paper contracts, if you will, and driving the price down because they had an inkling this was coming. Because when markets open tonight in China, I would think gold and silver would be appreciably higher. Am I off on my expectation?
Well, yeah, they should be. Gold and silver should be higher tonight into tomorrow and this week. And it's certainly plausible that naked shorts hit the market just to put gold and silver in a little bit of a hole. So the move that they make doesn't look like as big of a move, as it actually is. I would just say that any number that you've heard on gold or any number that you've heard on silver, whether it be a few months out, a year out, 5 years out, whatever top number you've heard is going to be laughably low by the time this is all done.
And Bill, when we look around the world, many a sovereign entity have been accumulating huge amounts of physical gold and physical silver. And big individual players have been accumulating physical gold and physical silver that are part, if you will, of the syndicate. Yet governments, in particular our government, they want people in paper asset. They sure as heck don't want them in hard assets or physical gold and physical silver, correct?
Right. And foreign central banks have been acting in their own interest because they see and they know exactly what's coming. They realize that and now it's only 50% now. The dollar represents right at 50% of foreign central bank reserves, and that used to be well into the 60s. So the use of the dollar as reserves has been declining, and they understand that portion of their balance sheet is going to get smoked. So they've got to have something on the other side of the seesaw to balance out what they know they're going to lose in dollars, and they're doing that with gold.
And what do you say to those folks, Bill, that say, well, we're okay in the United States because we have 8,300 tons of gold in our possession, so we're okay. Well, Bill, wait a minute. Remember way back in January of this year and February of this year and beginning of March of this year, Donald Trump and Elon Musk were talking about doing a video presentation and auditing the gold in Fort Knox, right? Bill, we haven't heard anything about that for months, and Elon is no longer there. And they talked about Doge auditing, and well, that's not on the books to happen either.
Do it. They cannot do an audit. There's not been a true audit since 1956. That's what I would say to someone who says we have 8,300 tons. When was the last time it was accounted for?
And the concern, Bill, is that Well, exactly what's there, and if there is stuff there, well, is it coin melt? Is it not the purity it's supposed to be? Is it a
And
bunch of paper IOUs because we leased the gold out?
yeah, who owns it? That's the big question. I mean,
Right.
there could be gold in the vault, but who actually owns it?
So, did Trump and Musk shut up about this and no more mention of an audit because the men in black suits showed up and said, "Boys, you don't talk about this, and you ain't going to Kentucky."
Yeah, that's a no-no.
Yeah. Because it exposes the whole Ponzi, doesn't it?
Well, it exposes the fractional reserve system, is what it does. And if they did an audit and there was only 2,000 tons left, then what we thought was the fractional reserve system is now 4 times as bad. And everything, I mean, this is a con game. Everything runs on confidence. And you would destroy confidence if it turns out that what is supposed to be, or once was, no longer, I guess, even thought to be, but what once was the foundation to the entire financial system isn't there.
So, Bill, there's all this concern, rightfully so, might I add, of a retaliatory strike by Iran and Russia and China. Bill, for a retaliatory strike, many people believe it has to be kinetic, bombs and missiles and all that stuff. If I wanted to do a retaliatory strike and I was in Russia and China's position, let's say, Bill, if I launched a retaliatory strike in financial markets by, I don't know, all of a sudden making all the banks in the world that are have all these paper contracts and shorts and precious metals like gold and silver. If I really wanted a retaliatory strike, Bill, I actually would jack the price of precious metals, gold and silver up, make those paper shorts burn, and watch the financial system burn to the ground. Bill, would that be effective?
It would be effective and it wouldn't take that much money. And it could certainly be paid for with the sale of U.S. treasuries.
Bill, is that what we're looking at?
I'm afraid so. I mean, you wouldn't need more than, and this is a grossly overdone number. You wouldn't need $20 billion to blow up COMEX gold. You wouldn't need $10 billion to blow up COMEX silver. In other words, you use that money, you buy, and you say, "I want my metal," because that metal doesn't exist. And I mean, China alone has what close to it. It's way down from 1.3 trillion, but it's close to $1 trillion left in treasuries. So whatever they want to do to destroy our markets, their ammo is in U.S. treasuries that they've already bought and paid for. That's where
That
they
they
get the money from.
that they dump on the market, that can't be absorbed, that drives interest rates up, right, and bond prices down.
Exactly.
And then take the proceeds and put it on gold purchases of gold and silver, burn up every bank in our country and the world, and guess what? Game,
It's
set, and
game
match,
over.
right, Bill?
Yeah, it's game over.
And what happened? And Bill, and to all those people saying, "Well, I'm just going to have cash. Hey, it'll be fine in cash." As you said earlier, cash is a dead instrument. Cash becomes like confetti from the Weimar Republic, doesn't it, Bill?
Well, yeah, there's two types of cash. There's paper cash, and then there's actual money. And the paper cash burns up because it is debt based. It's not an asset. Cash is not an asset. It's a liability. The basis for cash today.
And in particular, cash in a bank uh, is actually when even though we deposited our hard-earned incomes in a bank, it actually comes the possession of the bank, doesn't it?
Well, it doesn't become possession of the bank. It is possession of the bank as soon as you give them the money. It's not a deposit. It's a loan, and you are a subordinate lender. The most subordinate lender.
So when a bank goes under, you're the last one to get paid back when you're a subordinate.
Correct. And in this scenario, you won't be paid back.
So, Bill, is this why one of the statements you made earlier in our segment here today is that when this all lets loose, whatever number you see for the price of gold and silver, whatever you think might be a really high number, it's not a really high number in looking forward.
Right, because when this gets smoked, what happens is all of the paper, currency, debt, derivatives, all of that has got to, whatever's left of it, has got to find a place to hide or a home. And that home is going to be gold and silver.
And Bill, what are you seeing on the ground as far as the public with gold and silver? And what are you seeing from the institutions with gold and silver as far as demand?
Yeah, it's a real dichotomy. There's huge demand from institutionals. And as far as retail goes, in the last 9 months, if you combined all, and I'm just talking about my personal book, all of the sales that I've done in the last 9 months equals or is greater than all of the sales prior to that for 15 years. People are, the public is selling. And it's my belief that the reason that they're selling is, this is not people taking profits. This is people liquidating positions because they need cash to survive. Mm-hmm. I think the amount of cash on the streets at this point, it's dried up.
Bill Holter, how can folks get in touch with you in our final minute and 3/4 today? How can they get in touch with the great Bill Holter and follow your writings and everything you do?
You can go to my website, billholter.com. I would say, if you do go to my website, definitely go to Grizzly's Corner. It's a very good prepper source. There's all kinds of links on all kinds of things that you may not have even thought of that you'll need in a system down scenario. If you want to reach me directly for business, my business email is bholter@proton.me.